In this video, I'm going to outline the practical methods you can use to raise your IQ. I've personally used these methods to raise my own IQ from 100 points up to 153 points. That's an increase of over 50 points. Granted, I did that in about 30 years, but I believe it could be done in a year or two had I known the methods you can use. When I was young, it was believed that IQ was fixed and you couldn't increase it at all. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not only very possible to raise your IQ, but it's actually very doable and straightforward if you follow these methods. Firstly, I'd like to start with saying what you should not do or what you should stop doing if you want to raise your intelligence level. Let's talk about this idea of drugs being able to increase your intelligence. It seems like the Western culture is deeply steeped in the idea that drugs and medicines can not only solve your problems, but can help increase and enhance your abilities, such as intelligence. And I think Hollywood is partly responsible for this. It's amazing how many movies that deal with increased awareness, higher intelligence, higher abilities are fundamentally associated with taking a drug. I'll give you a few examples. In the film Limitless, starring Bradley Cooper, the hero is sort of average intelligence, or maybe he's a bit brighter than average, but he's a bumbling loser and he's got no energy, no ideas, and then he takes this drug, NZT, and overnight he becomes a genius who can think clearly, solve problems, and think his way to the top of life, all because of this drug. Then you've got the movie Lucy. Although quite a silly movie, it does have some very good ideas and does deal with this idea of raising your intelligence to greater heights. And the heroine, played by Scarlett Johansson, starts off as just an ordinary level student. Then she ends up with this drug inside her, which takes her progressively up to like a god level intelligence. And although it's exaggerated and much more about entertainment rather than to be taken too seriously, again, the idea is there that a drug will raise your abilities and raise your intelligence. Even in the film The Matrix, there's this idea of a red pill and a blue pill. One of them takes you to higher awareness and higher abilities, and the other one basically keeps you asleep. And although it's supposed to be symbolic, but it's still deeply planting the idea that it's only a question of which drug you take as to whether you go up or down in abilities or intelligence. The question is there any truth to this? Can drugs raise your abilities and raise your intelligence? I've heard various people talk about how drugs like amphetamines and psychedelics can raise abilities. Like amphetamines can speed people's minds up, make them think clearly or certainly faster. And people who've taken psychedelics, they tend to be able to see the world in a different way, and they come up with unique and brilliant ideas. But I think it's also strongly apparent that people who do use those drugs eventually become dependent on them, and their minds end up duller than they were prior to taking the drugs. I've also been told by people who smoke cannabis that the drug enables them to focus more clearly and think more clearly. A friend of mine and I used to play chess quite regularly, and because I was naturally better at the game, I won most of the time. But when my friend started to smoke cannabis whilst we were playing chess, it was quite noticeable just how much better at the game he became. And he claimed it was because he could just think more clearly, he could concentrate, he could focus. Over time, he was winning as many games as he was losing because he was smoking the cannabis. But one thing we also noticed is that when he wasn't smoking it, he was even worse then. So, although it may have been giving him a temporary boost in an ability to concentrate, it seemed to be it was reducing his overall level and ability to concentrate. This principle also seems to hold true for legalized drugs like caffeine. People drink caffeine in the form of usually coffee or energy drinks, and it gives them a temporary boost, makes them feel sharper, more aware, more alert. But it also seems to be they get into a habit of doing this, and then they end up needing the caffeine just to stop themselves from feeling dozy or sleepy. So they start off at an ordinary level, then they start using the caffeine to take them to a high level, which becomes less effective. Their basic energy level or awareness level seems to drop, and then they need the drug just to feel ordinary. So my suggestion is, why not just stop caffeine completely, stay at the ordinary level, and find another way to increase your intelligence or awareness or awakeness. One very big thing you can do to increase your intelligence is to stop wasting your time, your free time, on activities of the same intelligence level as the rest of your life. Now, many parts of our life, we just can't control the intelligence level, such as the job we do. It requires a certain intelligence level, and that's that. You have to be at that intelligence level to do and perform the job. Also, when you're out with friends, socializing, there's a certain intelligence level required, and you can't really go above or below it and stay in harmony with your friends. So that leaves just the free time you have to yourself. But what tends to happen is we're on one intelligence level with our job, one intelligence level with our friends, and we tend to keep on exactly the same intelligence level when it comes to our free time and our entertainment. I have a bad habit sometimes of just scrolling through endless TikToks or YouTube shorts because it's addictive. And I have noticed that it tends to be on exactly the same intelligence level as the rest of my life. That's actually quite precious time. So if you cut out that habit, it's not necessarily mindless entertainment, but entertainment and distraction that's on exactly the same intelligence level as the rest of your life, and seek out activities on a higher intelligence level. That's going to help raise the average of your life, because a lot of intelligence is actually a habit, and it's set by the average of your life. So you've only got a certain amount of free time to yourself, and that's the precious time that you can control. I'd say it's more important than ever to use that precious time to do, or at least think in terms of raising your intelligence level rather than staying on the same intelligence level as the rest of your life. Intelligence tests, puzzle games, crosswords, do these help increase your intelligence? Well, unfortunately, there's no evidence for it. These activities can be stimulating and they can make you feel intelligent while you're doing them, but unfortunately there's just no evidence whatsoever that they actually increase your intelligence level. They just use what intelligence you already have. And if you're working off the principle, use it or lose it, they can certainly help maintain and maybe stop a mental decline. But I don't think you should believe, because there's no reason to, that they actually increase the intelligence you have. So if you're using those things to increase your intelligence, I would say you're better off spending your time doing something else. Can affirmations raise your IQ? In neuro-linguistic programming, there's this principle of a triangle where the three corners are spoken words, feelings, and actions. And the idea is that whenever you increase one of those three, you automatically increase the other two. So if you were to apply this to intelligence, you would start off with the spoken words, which would be the affirmations. And you could start off by saying, I'm a highly intelligent person, or I'm getting smarter and smarter every day. And these have to be spoken out loud if you want your mind to really get behind them, not just thinking them. The idea is you say these out loud over and over again, and because you're increasing that point of the triangle, the spoken words, you end up feeling more intelligent, and you naturally gravitate to more intelligent actions. And when you start performing more intelligent actions, you feel more intelligent, and you end up saying it more. You end up speaking more confidently and more intelligently. And it forms a kind of a cycle. You increase one, you increase the others. Now, I said before that just actions, intelligent actions like doing puzzles or crossword puzzles, they have no actual effect by themselves when it comes to increasing your intelligence. But used in conjunction with affirmations, and if this triangle holds true, then yes, they could be very effective. How effective they are in practice, though, I couldn't say. Studies would have to be done, and you would have to document it very, very carefully and observe very, very carefully to see whether it actually does raise your intelligence. Can meditation and deep breathing raise your IQ? Now, I'm a fan of meditation and deep breathing, but I would say, strictly speaking, no. Those activities do not raise your intelligence level. It stands to reason if you're a nervous, anxious, or highly stressed person, you're not going to be able to concentrate, you're not going to be able to focus nearly as well on activities that require intelligence compared to when you're calm and relaxed. So to that degree, I would say meditation and deep breathing are a definite benefit, because if they calm you down and they make you feel your best, you are going to perform better when it comes to something like an IQ test. That's the reason I've included them on this list. Next, we're going to move on to actions that significantly raise your IQ, starting with the one that's most often overlooked, and that is getting your body into great physical condition. In the Western culture, in particular, there's been this myth that's been going on for decades about the two polar opposites of highly physical but also very stupid jocks and highly intelligent but complete weakling nerds. But if we look back to the Renaissance period, it was well understood that intellectual development and physical development go hand in hand. One of the best things you can do to actually raise your intelligence level is to get your body into great physical condition. Why? Well, believe it or not, your body has a great pull down on your mind. If your body is in bad condition, your mind is forced to put attention on it. So if your body's in pain, if your body is weak and feeling threatened by the environment, if your body's tired, out of shape, doesn't deliver enough oxygen to the brain, all of these are going to have a negative pull-down effect on the mind. So it's utterly vital to have the body in great physical condition. The next thing, of course, you have to understand is what constitutes a body being in great physical condition. And there are actually three key components to this. The first one, and the most obvious one, is cardiovascular fitness. The fitter your body is, the less tired it's going to be, the more it's going to be able to deliver oxygen to the brain, and it's just going to function better, and your mind is not going to have to think at all about the exertion of your body. The next one, not so obvious, is muscular strength and muscular development. Now you might think, how is this going to affect IQ and intelligence? Well, if your body is physically weak, whether you like it or not, it's going to feel adversely affected by the environment. Even if it's only in small things, like just moving the body around, going up and down stairs, getting it up and down from chairs. And on a much deeper level, because humans are basically animals in an environment, a physically weak body is going to feel threatened by the environment. So some of your mental attention is actually on your body if it's weak, because deep down there's a survival instinct. You know your body needs to be strong to survive. So if your body is physically feeble, it's going to feel threatened. So some of your mental attention has to stay on your body. The third component is flexibility. When your body is tense and stiff, it's because of pain and tension that's locked in the body. And the only way to get rid of that pain, maybe not the only way, but one of the ways, the key way to get rid of this tension, this locked in pain in the body, is by stretching. By doing stretching exercises, you unburden the body of these tensions, and your mind does not have to fixate or focus on the body. One of the reasons intelligence can drop in people as they get older is because more and more of their mental attention is going on their physical body. So by getting your body into great physical condition of fitness, strength and flexibility, your mind becomes much more freed up and able to concentrate on higher intelligence activities. Staying on the subject of the body, another highly effective method you can employ to raise your intelligence is a full body detox. There are detox programs that are designed to get rid of all the poisons and toxins that get stored in the fatty tissues of your body. And one very effective method that I know of is by going into a sauna and physically sweating these toxins out. Now, there are programs you can find, exact detox programs, that will completely purge your body of all the chemicals that they've absorbed over time. And these have actually a profound effect on your ability to think clearly and concentrate. I personally, whilst doing a sauna sweat program, raised my IQ 11 points in just 3 weeks. That is how powerful a sweat detox program is for raising your intelligence. One of the most powerful activities you can engage in to raise your IQ, believe it or not, is outdoor walking. Yes, I know, as simple as that. You might think, okay, this is just a repeat of the earlier method of physical exercise. No, that's not the point here. The point is not physical activity. The point here is being outside in a larger space. You might be frowning at this point and thinking, what the hell has that got to do with intelligence? Well, quite a lot actually, because the mind actually thinks spatially. It thinks in terms of spaces and objects in those spaces. A few hundred years ago, people lived much more outdoor lives, where they were outside in large open spaces. And this was actually very, very good for their minds. These days, we live in very, very small confined spaces, because we went from working on farms, mostly outdoors, then into factories, which were large indoor spaces. Then we went to smaller indoor spaces like offices, and then to office cubicles, even smaller spaces. And if you look at even our entertainment, we started off with live theatre in an open space, then indoor theatre in a smaller space, and then flat cinema screens, which are still quite large, to smaller TV screens, smaller space, computer monitors, smaller space again, to smartphones, even smaller space, smaller distance away from the eyes. What this has led to is a shrinking mindset, a mind that's full of memories of confined spaces leading to very small confined space thinking. This is actually very, very bad for the mind and bad for mental health. The antidote to this is going outside and walking in large open spaces. The best way to do this is to form a daily habit of actually going outside. It doesn't have to be for a long time, but and actually looking at the space around you, at distant objects, and expanding your space mentally. This is more effective if you go out walking by yourself, because if you're with someone else, you tend to put your attention on that person who's only a small distance away, and again you're back to the small space problem. That's the important thing here. Your attention has to go outwards onto the space. It has to extrovert your attention. Don't listen to music while you're walking. Listen to the environment around you. Don't look at your phone when you're walking, because that completely defeats the point. Put your attention on the world around you, onto the larger opening space around you. If you get into the habit of doing this on a daily basis and make it a disciplined activity, you'll be amazed at the effects it has on your mind. It really will, literally, open your mind and enlarge your thinking space. And you'll not only think a lot more clearly, and you will be brighter, you'll feel a lot better. This is a process that really should not be overlooked. It can be a real life changer if done regularly. One of the quickest and easiest ways to raise your intelligence is to tidy your mind. So, how do you tidy your mind? Well, it's actually a lot simpler than you might think. You start with your immediate environment, which is usually the room you live in. You tidy it up. So you think, how is that tidying my mind? Well, what you might not be aware of is your mind is basically a problem solver. And it perceives a disordered environment as basically a list of problems that need solving. Whether you like it or not, your mind is designed to solve problems and put order into chaos. So if you live in chaos, your mind constantly thinks it's living in a sea of problems that need solving. So your mental attention is going on your environment all the time, whether you like it or not. Now you might choose to ignore this and then wonder why you feel uneasy or tired or lazy or demotivated. It's because your mind is not freed up. You can't focus your mind on anything more when you're in a disordered environment. So the very first thing you really need to do is to put order into your surroundings by tidying your room. And if you do this, you will immediately start to feel better. Your mind will feel lighter and you will have more attention freed up. And when you've completely tidied your surroundings, you'll feel restored. You'll feel much calmer, much brighter. On this subject, you take the idea of the Japanese dojo in which martial arts were done, and the idea was a space as empty as possible. The dojo should just have the bare minimum of what's needed to perform the martial arts activities with no distractions whatsoever. So the mind is completely focused on the task at hand. In other words, a completely controlled, ordered, tidy environment. So the more tidy your room is, the less your mind will be unconsciously distracted by all the problems it perceives as need solving. So minimalism is another big point here. If you minimalize your surroundings, you may notice the room around me, I don't have pictures on the walls because I know they actually distract the mind. Even if you don't consciously look at that picture every day, your mind is actually registering it and it's going in there. Every object, everything in your environment is triggering something in your mind constantly. It's stimulating your mind. And really, you want your mind free to focus on what you want it to do, not what it's triggered to do. So the tidier your room and the more minimal your room is, the better it is for your intelligence. Lastly, we come to the biggest and what I believe is the most important method that you can employ to raise your intelligence, and that is reading. And I don't mean just reading as many high quality books as possible. I mean reading with complete comprehension of every single word that you read. That means being able to provide a complete and precise definition for every word you read. Now you might think that kind of level of meticulous study is not only unnecessary for most people, it's actually a waste of time. But that would be a hugely mistaken notion, because every word you read goes into your mind. And if those words are not understood, part of your mental attention remains fixed on those words. And this has been going on since your early ABCs when you started to learn how to read. Every word you've ever passed, if you do not have a full, clear definition, precise definition of the meaning of that word, then part of your mental attention stays fixed on it. And as you grow through time, as you grow older, the more words you pass that you don't understand, your level, your ability to learn drops, your interest in reading and learning drops as well, and can drop to the point where you're just no longer interested in reading, no longer interested in learning. And at that point, all development's going to stop. So it's vitally important for you to not go past words you don't understand. So the best thing to do would be to start with reading material that you're pretty comfortable with, and make sure every time you come across a word that you're not fully sure of the meaning, maybe you've got a hazy definition, or maybe no definition, or maybe an incorrect definition of that word, you should Google it or look it up in the dictionary and make sure you do understand it before you go forward. And then you can progress to higher and higher level literature. If you think this is not important and you just carry on just absorbing as much reading material as possible, ignoring words you don't fully understand, it doesn't matter, you can actually study yourself dumber. You can actually make yourself less intelligent, because more and more of your precious mental attention is getting stuck on words that it doesn't understand. Your mind, you may think as a personality, I don't care about those words. Your mind certainly does. It works like a computer. And if there's too much running that it doesn't understand, it clogs up. It clogs up your thinking power. So I'd strongly recommend you get into the habit of every time you come across a word you don't understand, look it up. Get a precise definition for it before you go forward. And if you get into the discipline of doing this, you will become brighter and more alert, and you'll feel better, and you will become more intelligent. No question. This is not to be overlooked. It's not to be underestimated. It is extremely powerful, and I would strongly, strongly recommend you get into the habit of doing this. Finally, I'm going to end this list with a method to improve your intelligence. It's more of a fun bonus one, this. It's actually a method for making you able to think more quickly. And it's the simple action of watching YouTube videos at double speed. Now, you may not be able to handle double speed at first, but if you look on the speed settings of any YouTube video, you can set it to 1.25, 1.5, 1.75 or 2.0 speed. You can watch the videos at a much faster rate. And the funny thing happens when you start doing this is at first it seems too fast, but very, very quickly your mind speeds up and it gets used to it. And then that becomes normal. And after you've been watching videos at twice the speed for even a short time, when you try and go back to normal speed, it seems incredibly slow because what's actually happened is your mind has speeded up. This is a very, very simple thing you can do. The videos don't have to be highly stimulating. They can be anything. But if you watch them at higher speed, your mind will speed up to match them and you will become brighter. One practical application for this, obviously, is the IQ test. IQ tests are against time. So if your mind is working more quickly, you will get through the questions more quickly and you will score higher on the IQ test.